Hello and welcome to those of you joining us on Lincolnshire Reporter. My name is Stefan Pidluzny, and with me for the 7th in our series of live Facebook chats with the candidates standing in the Sleaford North Hykeham by-election is Jim Clarke from the Labour Party. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
Right, to kick things off then, what made you want to stand in the election and what qualities do you think you'll bring?
What made me want to stand was I've been a local member of the Labour Party for over a decade. I've supported other candidates and I wanted to have a go myself, and I'm a local lad and wanted to represent the local area.
And so what job experiences, what life experiences do you have which you think might sort of help you if you became a Member of Parliament?
Well, I've been to the University of Life, I know the local area inside out, and I'm used to representing people in the workplace.
Yeah. So what sort of jobs do you do? So you sort of obviously get around the constituency quite a bit, you know it very well, you sort of live in it as well.
Well, I work for the local council, I'm a refuse driver. So
I suppose that's quite a good way of getting to meet people and sort of getting around the whole of the constituency as well.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So you've said that you'll vote to trigger Article 50, sort of if you become a Member of Parliament, obviously to leave the European Union. How did you vote in the referendum?
I voted in because I was concerned about jobs and the local economy.
So if you're that concerned about jobs, why are you voting to trigger Article 50?
Because you've got to respect the will of the electorate and people.
What about the 70% of Labour Party members who voted to remain?
Well, they don't all live in Sleaford North Hykeham,
But you represent the Labour Party.
I represent the local Labour Party, and I respect how people have voted locally and how the country's voted. And you need to do it. And politicians need to do that, do we not? And to respect how people vote.
Sure. You've also said that you'll fight for a Brexit that puts local people first. What does that actually mean?
Well, let's be fair. You have Victoria from UKIP saying about all the red tape and everything else, and what does she mean by that? And ultimately, people didn't vote for Brexit to see the prices in the supermarket going up, to see fuel prices going up, to lose workers' rights.
What happens if all that happens, though, as a result?
Well, if we vote for Article 50, let's start the negotiations and let's start negotiating and see what Europe offers us.
And so,
I mean, Theresa May and the Tories have done nothing since June. Nothing has happened at all.
And going back to putting local people first, how will that actually happen? What will you do to fight for a Brexit that puts local people first? What practical things can you put forward?
Out campaigning, out raising awareness. I mean, there's laws in EU law regarding paternity pay, part-time workers' rights, 28 days holiday. There's 2 legislations, health and safety legislation. That needs putting into British law and protecting people. People didn't vote Brexit to lose out on workers' rights and their quality of life and their working life to be downgraded even more. We've had austerity now for 6 years for this Tory government, supported by the Lib Dems. I mean, it's atrocious. People haven't seen any real the wages haven't increased, have they?
Yeah.
It's stagnation. And then the experts are predicting it's going to carry on. You can't live like that. And then to top it off, then we have that on top. No, it's not acceptable.
Yeah. Would you support staying in the single market?
I don't believe you can say have it a minute. See, I've done Article 50 and started the negotiations. You've got to see what Europe's going to offer us, and that's got to be negotiated.
How confident are you about what the EU will offer us? That they'll offer us a good deal?
Well, instead of dilly-dallying about like we have been doing, living in limbo land for all these months, why didn't we start it?
Is it saying get on with it then?
I think we should get on with it and start negotiations, yeah.
Immigration, I'm sure, is an issue that comes upon the doorstep quite a bit. You've said, I'm just reading here, that you'll address people's concerns about freedom of movement. What are people's concerns?
Well, I think people locally have felt undercut. I mean, I don't blame the exploited. It's blame the exploiters. We've got people, agencies going to Europe, recruiting people, bring them over here, working in the factories, and it's undercutting local wages. And T's and C's, they've got no trade union rights. It's just not acceptable. That needs addressing. When we was in government last in 2010, Eric Pickles did away with the Migrant Impact Fund. That was a fund that was there that the local councils could pull down and support public services, to help out with things. And they scrapped it. The Tories scrapped it.
So, should freedom of movement then be restricted?
Well, I believe we need a fair a fair system, and that's got me. And that's,
So
and,
would a
but
fair system involve restrictions?
It may not, but it's got to be negotiated. You know, I'm not Mystic Meg. Let's start Article 50. Let's start negotiating, and then see where we get, because it's all wrapped up with trade deals and everything else, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. Don't people, instead of, you mentioned undercutting of wages, don't a lot of people just want to see immigration come down full stop?
Perhaps, yeah, they do. But that's been the issues around it, isn't it? Because, you know, the exploited have been exploited, and then it drags other people down.
Of course, it's one thing understanding people's concerns about immigration. The job of a politician, of course, is to understand that's very important, but it's also to tackle and address problems as well. Regarding immigration, then, what would you do if you were elected? Or what would you hope, and how would you influence the Labour Party?
Well, I'd campaign locally that we got our fair share of funding to support public services.
Sure.
So people don't have to wait to get to the doctors. I mean, look what's happened just recently. Memorandum surgery just go into the wall, isn't it? That's through Tory cuts.
On the subject of the NHS, I'm glad you brought it up. What would you do regarding the situation at Grantham A&E, differently to what's already happened?
Well, I was out there yesterday with John Ashworth, was campaigning.
And John Ashworth, for people who know, Shadow Health.
Yes, sorry, thank you for pointing that out. And I'd campaign as hard as possible to get it reinstated. That's what needs to happen. You know, Lincolnshire is such a vast county, and then to lose an A&E at night, it's just not acceptable. And then having to travel away to Lincoln or Boston in the dark, you know, with another one who's ill, it's not right, is it?
Who do you think's to blame for the situation there?
The blame, in my eyes, stops firmly with the Tories. They're the ones running the country.
What could they have done differently?
Well, we've just had the ultimate statement, haven't we? Not one mention of the NHS, not a mention. Not one extra penny of money. That's not acceptable.
That's in the last week, though. Obviously, the situation at Grantham has been going on for at least a few years.
It has. And who's been in charge since 2010? The Conservatives, supported by the Lib Dems initially, and now they're running the show. Well, I say running the show, but I think they're in complete making a mess of it, aren't they?
You also want to see more bobbies on the beat. You've mentioned that in your campaign as well. You must therefore want to congratulate the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner Mark Jones on his latest recruitment drive.
I heard the gentleman on the radio the other day saying, and you know, it made me smile. Yes, he's going for recruitment locally.
That's a good thing, though, isn't it?
I think it's good recruiting any police officers. But you know, also he's on about addressing people so they don't see the police, but they are driving past in cars. Well, that's not acceptable. And he also mentioned that there's going to be a funding crisis and not too far away. Well, he's a Conservative, and it's a Conservative government that's doing it to him. So he's not even got enough money to run the Lincolnshire Police Force. So surely, you know, that needs addressing. That can't be right, can it? When it's a rural county like we are.
How much more money do you think Lincolnshire Police needs?
I think it needs proper funding for the area. We always seem to lose
How much
out.
is proper funding? In terms of, I don't know, a rough monetary amount?
I haven't got a figure to hand, but it needs looking at and addressing. I know we've lost officers over the past years.
How many bobbies on the beat do you think we need, in addition to the ones that we've already got?
Well, I don't know those figures, so I'm sorry, but people don't see the police about. I don't see the police about much, and the numbers have dropped.
So it's a perception as well as sort of actual numbers as well.
Yeah,
sure. Another important issue in the area, obviously, is the roads as well. This week, Transport Secretary Chris Grayling announced funding for the Lincoln Eastern Bypass, which is obviously welcome news. Does Sleaford North Hykeham need similar investment now?
I think we need to look at the whole infrastructure of Lincolnshire. If you want to attract business and keep people, we need good roads and good transport, don't we? And it needs to be the right price. You know, things are quite dear, aren't they? The trains are not cheap, and there needs to be more regular trains.
The trains are going to get more expensive in the new year.
I think just announced today the prices are going to go up, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, what would you like to do with that? Should there be a price freeze?
I would ultimately like to see, as I think a lot of people in the Labour Party would like to see, when a franchise comes to an end, that we take that back on into public ownership.
So you'd like to nationalise them, but not immediately?
No, you can do it one step at a time. When they come to an end, take them on.
Why? If you support that, though, why wouldn't you just do it straight away?
Well, there's a terrific cost there, isn't there? And if you do it in as it comes up, it's fine. East Coast trains work to treat, and now Virgin's running it.
What's the problem with private the owned
Well,
trains?
to me it seems a bit...
Surely it doesn't really matter, does it, as long as the trains are on time?
But they make vast profits, yet they still have public money to help run the services. And then they're still putting the prices up. It doesn't seem to tally to me. Surely we should have a good service run by public money that's cheap and everyone can utilise and use.
But if private companies were able to do that, would you have a problem with that?
If private companies
did what you just said, would you have an issue with private companies?
Well, I think it's been proven, hasn't it, that it can be run better when there's East Coast trains and the state doing it.
In terms of the roads around Lincolnshire as well, you obviously mentioned they need major investment. Which roads in particular?
Well, I think the A17 is a main trunk road through the constituency. It connects from east to west. Now, that needs investment. And why am I going with dual carriageway all the way?
Yeah, and what about things like the southern bypass? I mean, obviously there's been the eastern bypass, which has just had money. What about the southern bypass, which would cover the constituency as well?
I think it needs looking at. It needs seriously looking at into investment.
Yeah. And in terms of the constituency as well, it's quite a strange one, isn't it? Sort of areas to the south look towards Grantham, areas like North Hykeham look towards Lincoln, areas look towards Newark as well. How do you go about sort of making sure that all the people feel part of the same sort of constituency and community?
It is a vast constituency, yeah, without a shadow of doubt. And that's important to get out there. We was in Barrowby the other day, door knocking.
And that's right at the south as well. So how important is it to, as I said, make sure the people in North Hykeham feel the same as the people living, right almost on the doorstep of Grantham?
Everyone's important in the constituency.
Yeah. And what would be a good result for Labour here?
What would be a good result?
Yeah.
Well, I want to win. We need to win it.
How realistic is that, especially after last night when you lost your deposit, I believe the party did?
Well, I think that you're comparing chalk and cheese there. That's if you're about Richmond, that's West London, very affluent area. It's always been Tory. I think no, it's just chalk and cheese. It's completely different.
Hasn't Sleaford and North Hykeham always been Tory though?
Yes, it has, and that's part of the reason why I'm standing, because I believe it, and we have a Tory county council, and taking people's votes for granted. And I'm a local lad, and that's why one of the reasons I want to stand.
And you think you can spring a surprise?
Why not? I think the political scene's changing at the minute. People want to a system, however you say that works for them, that delivers good public services, and people to campaign on, and that's what the Labour Party is about, being equal and social justice.
I suppose we won't have long to wait now. The by-election takes place on Thursday, December the 8th. Thank you very much for joining us, Jim. We've also got, coming in today, we've got Paul Coyne, who's an independent candidate, and we've also got Marianne Overton from the Lincolnshire Independents. But just run through who we've had before. On Wednesday, we had Ross Pepper from the Liberal Democrats. On Thursday, we had Caroline Johnson from the Conservative Party, Victoria Ayling from UKIP, and Peter Hill from the Monster Raving Loony. And earlier this morning, we've had Sarah Stark, who's an independent candidate, and we've had David Bishop as well from the Bus Pass Elvis Party.